All right, good day, everybody. Steve Prziborowski here. Welcome to episode 13, lucky 13 of Reach for the Firefighter Badge. Episode 13, I'm going to answer a question that I get asked a lot of times as well. Where can you get a job as a firefighter? And this will apply a job, meaning not just a career paid position, but also potentially a part-time position, if not a volunteer position. So think of it in those terms there, but obviously primarily full-time career that you can make money at, get wages, benefits, and all that other stuff goes with a job. So as we get started here, just a reminder, my two websites, code3firetraining.com as well as chabotfire.com. Both have free stuff links, lots of great information for all types of firefighters from all around the country, whether you're wanting to be on the job or you're already on the job, whether you're a firefighter up to fire chief, or whether you're a future firefighter, lots of great information on both those websites. These webinars are based on two of the three books that I've been fortunate to have published, Reach for the Firefighter Badge, as well as the Future Firefighters Preparation Guide. Both are good, valuable books that provide a lot of insight into becoming a firefighter, being the best that you can be as a candidate, and both are available off my websites previously mentioned. So, simply put, who hires firefighters? Well, for the most part, probably the biggest employer of firefighters are city fire departments. Most cities have their own fire department. Now, there are some cities that actually contract with bigger departments, like a county department. Like in my case, my department serves 7 different cities or towns. One of them is known as a town, but cities, towns. So for the most part, cities have their own fire department, but it's not uncommon for some cities to contract like with the county fire department, or maybe even with the state fire department, or maybe even with some type of regional fire authority in a merger type of setting or a contract setting to help provide service and provide a better economy of scale. But for the most parts, most incorporated cities have their own fire department that is made up of career members. Now, obviously, if it's a smaller community, depending on if it's a rural area or other parts of the country that are outside of the major metropolitan areas, even if it's an incorporated city, there's a good chance that maybe just a volunteer fire department serves the city. So thankfully, the internet is out there and allows you to do a lot of research, and a lot of the information can be found just by going to city fire department websites. So for the most part, cities hire firefighters. Many counties also have their own fire departments. Again, every county is different. Some county fire departments, like mine, serve cities. We also serve some unincorporated areas of the county, but mostly cities. There are some other county fire departments that don't serve cities, but they serve unincorporated areas. Now, there's a difference between this incorporated and unincorporated city. I'm not going to give you a public government lesson here, but I encourage you to know the difference between incorporated versus unincorporated. There are some cities that you may think, well, hey, that's a city. Well, it's not technically a city. It may be well populated with thousands of people, but it's technically county unincorporated. And in many circumstances, we're protected by the county fire department, not necessarily a city, because it's not a city. I know you go, I don't give a crap about this stuff, Steve. Just get me to the meat of the matter. Okay. There's also state fire departments. Like in California, there's Cal Fire. It used to be California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection. They shortened their name to Cal Fire. They protect well, let me put it this way. Cal Fire in California, I can speak for them. They do serve a few cities by a contract basis. Just like I said, some cities contract with counties, some cities contract with the state, but that's very little of their business. Most of Cal Fire's business around the state is all area that's known as state responsibility, or SRA for short. And you may go, SRA, state responsibility area, just like LRA is local responsibility area. So a city jurisdictional boundaries is LRA, local responsibility area, which means it's the fire department of that city's responsibility. Now again, you may go LRA, SRA, unincorporated city, incorporated city. No. These are things you should be understanding as a firefighter. I mean, we teach these things to our students at Chabot College in the Intro to Fire class. I want them to know the difference between city, county, state departments, what they protect, what they don't protect. Number one, so you can be better armed when you go into an oral interview. Because again, I'm going to preach every single time, don't prepare for the test, prepare for the position. So if you're preparing for the position of, say, working maybe for the state fire department or a county fire department or a city fire department, you've done your homework and you know what their geographical area consists of. So you don't look like an idiot during the oral interview phase. Do your homework. Pretty easy to do thanks to the internet. There's also federal fire departments. Now, federal fire departments across the country are shrinking drastically. When I was starting out to become a firefighter in the early 90s, there was a ton of federal fire department opportunities, mostly at all the Air Force bases, naval air bases, military installations, Army bases. Well, in the mid-90s, many of those got shut down or civilianized. So it was not uncommon in the mid-90s for a whole slew of federal fire departments to really just shut down. Some of them went out of business basically and gave the land that was the federal installation. They shut down, say, the Air Force base. They gave it to the city, the local responsibility area, and the city fire department now protects it. And a lot of those areas are now houses or commercial development because there's no longer a need for the military bases, as the military installations were defunded, for lack of a better term. So there may be different types of opportunities out there. There's also some private fire departments, not many of them, but there are some private fire departments. You wouldn't know the difference. If you looked at all these types of fire departments, the fire engines probably look the same. The uniforms probably look the same. The t-shirts look the same. You wouldn't know the difference. And that's sort of probably done for a good reason there. And there's nothing wrong with that. But again, do your homework and research the departments you're applying for. There are maybe a few college fire departments across the country, not a lot of them. At least in the California area, I know UC Davis, University of California, Davis, has a one-station fire department. That fire department's been in existence as long as I've known. Most of the other colleges around the state contract for fire service or have an agreement, whatever it is, whether they pay them or it's just an agreement, with pretty much their local county or city fire department, which makes sense because for any place to run their own fire department, it's not cheap. You know, wages and benefits make up 90% plus of a department's budget. Police department, fire department, I mean, people are expensive. That's just the cost of doing business, as are healthcare benefits and retirement benefits. So that's why for a one-station department like UC Davis, I mean, it seems to work for them. They haven't had a reason to merge with the local department or the county department. So again, do your homework. There's nothing wrong with working for any of these types of departments. They all have their differences. There's also industrial fire departments, like maybe oil refineries or other types of installations that are protected by their own brigades or firefighters. Now, I think the key difference, though, is you do your homework and your research on these different types of fire departments. Usually the best, and again, you should not be doing this for the wages, the benefits, working conditions, because you're probably going to be unhappy at some point because money, benefits do change. Sometimes they get better, sometimes they get worse over the years. But typically, it seems like for the most part, like with anything else, usually the federal government pays the least and usually cities pay the most. That just seems to be the law of averages for any line of work, firefighting, law enforcement, whatever. So, you know, like for most city firefighters work anywhere from 42 to 56 hours. That's pretty much common, whether they have 3 platoons or 3 shifts or 4 platoons, 4 shifts. 42 to 56 hours for most city firefighters, most county firefighters. But if you work for the state fire department, sometimes they work a lot more hours. My understanding that CAL FIRE in California, they work 72 to 84 hours a week. That just means they have 2 shifts or 2 platoons versus 3 or 4 like most city, county, or county fire departments do. Again, there's no wrong, there's no right. It comes down to what type of work you want to do. If you like wildland firefighting, like many people do, go work for CAL FIRE, the state fire agency, because that's their primary mission is wildland firefighting. If you do not like wildland firefighting, then probably don't work for an environment like that, or even like the federal government. U.S. Forest Service is a federal agency that provides wildland firefighting across the country. You know, if you don't like wildland, then work for a city department. Most counties have some type of wildland problem. Well, heck, in California even now, pretty much every city has a wildland problem. And I use the example about doing your homework. The city of Alameda is right next to Oakland, right across the bay from San Francisco. Alameda is flat. It's an island. Alameda really does not have any wildland problem in their flat island. So I know people say, well, you know what, I want to work for Alameda because I don't want wildland. Well, let you into a little secret here. while Alameda may not have the need for any wildland fire apparatus, wildland training, or maybe even any personal protective equipment, when Oakland, which is next door to Alameda, has a big major wildland fire, as they've had in their history, like many communities have, guess who they're going to be the first to call? The local area fire departments, the fire departments such as Alameda, and then all the other neighboring jurisdictions. And when there's the state fires burning throughout the state, as I'm talking with you right now, there's a number of fires burning around the state of California and the West Coast. Guess what happens when certain areas around the state need assistance, meaning mutual aid assistance, because they're overwhelmed? Well, then we start reaching out to other communities. So that's the problem, I guess, in California. Not a problem to me, but if you don't like wildland, it doesn't matter what department you work at in California. When one community needs another jurisdiction's assistance and they blast out across the state saying we need resources, every department is fair game for sending out their personnel. So even if you don't work for Alameda and they don't have wildland apparatus, they're going to have wildland personal protective equipment, and they're also going to provide you wildland training, because that's what their members are going to be expected to do on a mutual aid assignment, maybe to the neighboring department, or maybe even somewhere else around the state, or even out of the state, because it's not uncommon for us to go to other states to provide mutual aid. So wildland's not going away, unfortunately, if you don't like it. And if you like it, it's here to stay. So no wrong, there's no right. There's different types of fire departments. I encourage you to do your homework on each of them so you know what you're getting into as well. So ultimately, the key is doing your research to fully know what you're getting into. As I say, eyes wide open or head on a swivel, so there's no surprises. Each type of department has its pros and cons. Just do your homework, because some of you may say, you know what? I'm trying my best to become a municipal or a city firefighter or a county firefighter. And usually county departments, like I said, are made up of multiple cities and are usually bigger departments with a lot more promotional opportunities or lateral assignments and so forth. That's one of the benefits of working for county departments, is they're usually bigger departments if you like to do a lot of different things. And we get to do a lot of different things. Well, sometimes you may say, well, I'll take a job at a private fire department just to get some experience. And any experience is better than nothing, and it comes down to how you sell it on your oral interview. The challenging part, though, like I said, back in the 90s, when there was still a lot of federal fire installations because of all the military bases around the state and around the San Francisco area, I know a lot of men and women that took jobs at the Naval Air Station or the military air base just to be a firefighter. And they were trying to use that as a stepping stone to become a full-time firefighter in a neighboring department, which happened for a lot of them. But I remember doing my research and going, wait a second, yeah, I could probably get a job at the Naval Air Station Fire Department or the Army Air Base or the Air Force Base. I could probably get a job there, because they were looking for people. If you had your EMT and your firefighter one from college like I did, you were fair game to get an easy job at one of the federal bases. Well, the problem that I found out was most of these federal fire departments, or even private fire departments, only have one or two stations, which isn't a problem. Some people like small departments. I prefer a large one. Well, think about this. Help me out here. When you're wanting to become a firefighter, as you're learning through the firefighting process, physically, you may have to go down multiple times to that department. You may have to go down to take a written test, or to file an application, or to do an oral interview, or to go for your chief's interview, or a separate date for your background investigation, a separate date for your medical evaluation. So in theory, testing for one department may require multiple trips to that jurisdiction. Now, again, with the coronavirus pandemic going on, it's changing a lot of things for the time being. Some departments are doing Zoom interviews, and some departments are trying to limit the interaction, but let's just focus on hopefully when this stuff is behind us. I'm hoping sooner than later, when we have a vaccine and we're on other things. But if you're working at a fire department that only has one or two stations, that means you probably don't have a lot of coworkers. And when I say that, I mean coworkers to help you out by trading time with you. So what I saw with a lot of the federal firefighters that were working 84 hours a week, because they only had 2 platoons of people, was that when it came time to take the interview with whatever, say Oakland Fire Department or San Francisco or Sacramento, think about it. Most of your competitors that also worked with you were also trying to do the same thing, get the hell out of Dodge. So I remember hearing from a lot of guys that it was tough to get trades, and you can't call in sick, because if you call in sick, they probably know why or where you're going. And then you don't want to get in trouble for falsely calling in sick, which is a whole other issue. So that's the problem. Depending on where you choose to work, especially if you're thinking about it as a stepping stone, do your homework, because it may not be as good as you think. I decided, you know what, I could be a federal firefighter, but for me, it's probably smarter for me to go to paramedic school, as I discussed in one of the last episodes. I think looking back, that was a better decision for me to spend the money to go to paramedic school. It took me longer to get hired as a full-time firefighter, but it also opened up a ton more doors because there was less competitors. So again, you're yourself, you're not me. I don't want you to be me. I just want to offer some lessons, some experiences throughout my travels over the years, and hopefully at least one thing benefits you in each webinar. If so, that's my job. I've done it. So as always, thank you very much for the gift of your time. My contact information, my social media outlets, please feel free to connect with me. Feel free to reach out if I can ever be of assistance to you. So the jobs are out there. You got to locate them. You got to apply for them. You got to put your best foot forward and give it a shot. What's the worst that could happen? They say no. Okay, learn from your mistakes, try again. Or better yet, they can say yes. And now you got a chance to say, hey, I'm a firefighter. So don't discount a job anywhere, because if the title's firefighter, you're a firefighter. Just make sure you do your homework and your research to make sure that you're doing the best you can to set yourself up for success in the long run. All right, until next time, everybody, take care, be safe, and we'll see you soon.